I'm Bree.
And I'm Hannah.
We met through our shared obsession with romance and fantasy novels.
And honestly, we haven't stopped talking about books since.
Each week, we're sharing what we're reading, sharing our opinions,
and spilling all the tea about our lives.
So whether you're here for book recs, hot takes, or you just want to hang out with us for a bit,
you're in the right place. We're also talking about life, sharing our highs and lows,
and having the kind of conversations we'd have over margaritas.
Welcome to Chapter Chats. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Chapter Chats. I'm Hannah.
And I'm Bree. And today we be doing Captain.
He's gonna cause me to crash out, I think. He keeps going and pulling toys out. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
And I'm Bree, and today we will be doing our Q1 wrap-up because we post our own monthly wrap-ups on our own pages, so we decided for the podcast, instead of basically re-saying everything we say on our own pages for monthly ones, we'll just do big quarterly ones where we just hit the highlights and the lowlights.
So we were thinking, because obviously you hear about a lot of the books that we read between book club episodes, and then we tend to talk about at least one, usually more per episode, but we also read a lot more than a book or two per week. So this is kind of our way of giving you the overall how things are going and what we're actually reading, as opposed to very subject-based episodes for particular types of books. So we're still gonna kick off the way that we always do, though. So, Bree, do you want to tell us about your high and low this week?
Yes, my high is last week I was thinking about buying a house, and this week I bought a house.
Woo!
So it's a new construction, so it's actually being built. It won't feel really real until July, when the house is done and my mortgage comes in. I have to start paying stuff. But on the little map, it says sold, and it's officially mine. So it's real. I'm very excited. I cannot wait. I already have a whole plan for my library. It's going to be great.
Have you walked through an actual model of the floor plan you're getting? Okay, nice. So you have a good mental idea.
Yes, so I know exactly what it will look like, minus the little minuscule differences based on the lot and things like that. But I at least know the general layout.
Do you get to pick counters and paint colors and flooring and stuff?
Well, they have nice granite countertops, so I want those. So I didn't even ask if I could pick, because I was just those are great. And then they paint everything, but then obviously it's my house. So if I want to repaint everything,
I just meant sometimes when builders are going from scratch or whatever, if it hasn't been put together yet, they'll let you here's 4 options, you pick your favorite or whatever. But if you like everything that's in the models already, then
yeah, it's pretty. I feel it's pretty basic and perfect for this beginner step. And then I don't all the rooms I think are a beigey white, and so that's a good base color. And I don't know. I thought about painting my room, but then I'm what if I hate the color within 6 months?
You can always repaint it. But if your goal is to sell eventually, then probably neutral is easiest.
Yeah. So, and I have a bunch of stuff to hang on the walls, so it won't be super bland.
You're don't worry, there will be personality.
Yeah. And then my low is just, stress. I feel I say this every time, but obviously I bought a house, so now I got to start having house stress and payment stress, and then just a lot of stuff going on with my family and interpersonal things, and then we've all been sick, and it's just been, Hawaii happened, and I don't think I've recovered yet.
Yeah, good times. We are in a new month, though, so happy April, and hopefully this one's better than the last.
Yeah, well, anything's better than hell, so
you're not wrong.
What are your highs and lows?
I have kind of a general high, which is that I feel I've been trying to carve more time out to do things that I like, which I broadly called hobbies, but I don't know if I've ever articulated this to you. I hate the word hobbies because I feel it's kind of reductive for stuff I do in my free time that I enjoy. Oh, you have a little hobby? That's so cute. If a man likes to go fishing or golf, I wouldn't say those are his hobbies, even though I guess they technically are. It feels something that's very something women do when they enjoy crafting or something you know what I mean? Anyway.
I also feel everyone has a different definition of hobbies, because I went on a date with one guy one time. He was well, my hobby is video gaming. And I was okay, whatever. And then someone's that's not a hobby. And I was who cares? It's what he likes to I feel like hobby is just a general like, it's what he likes to do. Does it really matter if it's an actual like I feel like hobby is like a colloquial term.
Yeah, it's not my favorite. But anyway, point being, I feel like I'm like making more time to do stuff. And like reading is always going to be, I think, both of our
Mhm.
main hobbies. But I've been doing a lot of like tandem reading where I have like either the physical book and I'm listening to the audio at the same time or like switch back and forth. And when I'm doing my audiobook time, I feel like historically I would do a lot of like playing games on my phone or like something else. Whereas now I'm trying to be really intentional about like knitting, doing like watercolor, like doing something
Mhm.
that's like puzzles. I've always liked puzzles. You know this about me, but um I feel like it's very like emotionally regulating to actually like
Mhm.
do something that's not one technology based and two something that like has to be productive in some form.
And Hannah's really good at watercolors, which I never knew.
I have
She
done
just, like,
now.
pulled it out one day and was like, "Look at this amazing thing I just painted." And I was like, "Oh
That
my
is
gosh."
not what I said.
No, that's what I said. When I was like, "That's so good. I can't even draw a stick person." I was very much amazed.
I'm sure you can draw a stick person.
No, it's bad. Literally in 6th grade, my art teacher took my self-portrait and said, "Don't even worry about Brianna," and then did it for me. That's how bad it was.
Well, she didn't want you to feed into your own perfectionism too much, probably, is what it was.
But Hannah is really good. Her things look really pretty.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So that's kind of what I've been doing. And I've been junk journaling a lot, which I really enjoy because that's like partially journaling, but also partially just like scrapbooking with no rules, which I do kind of get caught up in the like everything has to be perfect if it's like a book journal or like something
Yeah.
specific that I feel like is going to last forever. Whereas a junk journal, I'm like, the whole point of it is to just put random stuff that I would otherwise have thrown away. So, um, yeah, I think that's my high, which isn't really restricted to just last week. I feel like I've been doing that really since my back injury because
Mhm.
there hasn't been a lot else to do. And then my low is still just my back. I'm basically up to full function except for sitting for long periods, which is a bummer when that's literally the sole physical requirement of my desk job. But I still haven't gone back to work in person, so I've been working remote. And because of that, I've had a lot of like work related anxiety because I feel like everybody at my job hates me, which is not true or
Yeah.
based in like reality. It's just I have like this guilt complex about it. So there's 4 attorneys that are at my firm and I made 40% of our revenue in March.
Good
And
grief.
I don't even work 5 days a week. They all
Mhm.
do. And I didn't even work for 2 weeks out of the whole month because I was on vacation for a week and then bedridden.
I think you're
And
solid.
yeah, there's no reason I should have work anxiety is my point, but I still do. So
I think that's just like natural of our personalities though, because I do the same thing. I filed more than the average number of briefs so far this year. Like I'm fine. But in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't filed anything this week. What am I doing? I need to get it together. And my boss is like, Brandon, chill out. Like, you're fine. So I think just when like we're as driven as you and I are, and we know how good we are, but we know what we can do. Okay, I need to be doing more, even though we're fine.
my boss is very much like a dude bro, kind of like clearly used to be a frat boy and never quite grew out of that energy. So he's very chill most of the time, but that also means he like doesn't really give feedback at all. And he's never going to be like, "Oh, relax, chill, you're doing great." So not because he doesn't even think that necessarily or because he thinks I'm doing a bad job, he just doesn't like
Not who
communicate
he
very
is.
well, which is frustrating. So, anyway, that was my week. Let's jump into recent reads. What do you have?
Yeah,
This
my
is our last
recent
episode where you're in your Lent reading.
I know, that's crazy. So I definitely have more that I still want to read like after Lent because I've built up a good like a repertoire. But I am excited to get to some non-Christian fiction books. I've got some recent releases that came out in March that I never got to read, and then I've got Rides of the Starling coming. And I wanted to reread Shield of Sparrows. I don't think that's gonna happen, so I'm just gonna do background on it. Anyway, that none of that's pertaining to my recent read, but I'm excited to read it. My recent read is The Radiance of the Moon by Ashley Worrell. I think that's how you say her last name. This was literally like it gave me the same kind of vibes of Game of Thrones as far as like that kind of medieval, like fighting for the crown and all these different things, except it's set in Scotland in the 1300s. So I think technically it's supposed to be like a historical fiction, but it really gave me like fantasy vibes. And it's the Christian version, and it was so good. It's basically like all these different clans in Scotland, and there's a big war about to be happening, and this like secret king who's trying to attack people. And our MMC, basically, he had an abusive dad. He killed his dad and then he fled. And he basically like lived as a mercenary, a drunk mercenary, his whole life because he felt guilty over killing his father, even though his father sucked. And he finally like comes back. He finds the Lord. He ends up working for the new king, and then he becomes like the leader of a clan. And so his whole story is about like grace and redemption and, you know, becoming a better person. And then he meets this girl, he falls in love, but he's supposed to be arranged in marriage to someone else as a like marriage tie between these two kingdoms so that the other kingdom doesn't join the bad side of the war. But he doesn't want to marry that girl because he's in love with someone else. And so there's all kinds of like tension. And it was just really good. I love a story set in Scotland. It's just a good time. And yeah, it ends on our like main couple, kind of their story ends, but there's a bunch of things that happens around them that kind of ends on a cliffhanger, and the next book follows a side character that I absolutely loved. And you like don't know what's happened to him because it kind of ends on the cliffhanger that he's dead.
You
so
love
we have no idea.
Good series, so
Yes.
this will be right up your alley. Yeah.
So he's like missing in action, but I know like he's the next main character, so I'm very, very excited to see where we go from there. It was super fun.
I'm glad you liked it. That sounds really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to read Outlander.
I have it over here somewhere.
I know. I gave it to you.
It's on my list to get to. My TBR, literally everything's on it. There's almost not a book that's not on my TBR. Like, I'll just add everything.
You haven't counted how many books you have, right?
No. That's when I move into the house. I'm like, maybe I'll do it then.
That'd be a good time too. Or
Right
even
now,
while you're like packing, because you can just inventory as you.
I was like, right now everything's in different rooms. So I'm just like, that's so much work. I gotta climb the stairs.
As if you don't do that all the time. My book is Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. This is the first book in the Farseer trilogy, which is the first kind of series, I guess, in the Realm of the Elderling saga, which is a 16-book series with math. I think there's 3 trilogies and 2 quartets. Does that add up?
And I think that's 17.
Okay. So I think there's 1 quartet and 4 trilogies. Yes. Yeah.
We went to law school, not mathematician school.
Yeah. And so anyway, this is the first trilogy, which I've heard you can either start here or with the next trilogy, which is the Live Ship Traders, which maybe it's not behind me the way that I thought it was. Oh, it literally is right behind me.
I was about to say, I think that's behind you.
And I really enjoyed it. It's definitely a slower paced, much more like character forward fantasy. And you can tell the like scope of the whole series is going to be very large. But this first trilogy is from the perspective of Fitz, who is a bastard son of the next, like the king in waiting. And he basically like resigns because it comes out that he had a bastard and there's a lot of issues, and then he dies. And so it's kind of, and his name is Fitz, the boy. It's his kind of relationship with the master of like hounds, who he kind of apprentices for. He's involved with like his dad's other 2 brothers, who are now like the next in line, the actual current king. His, I guess, technically stepmom, who was married to now the dead king in waiting. And then he's also still like 6 years old and a little kid. So he's like running around this like castle keep with his buddies. And the royal line in the book has like a type of magic called skill, which is essentially like, it's kind of unclear what it is because Fitz doesn't totally understand it yet. And it's all from his POV, but it's sort of like telepathy, sort of, but also has an element of like influence and manipulation. So I think that'll obviously get developed as we go, because Fitz is like just kind of starting to learn how to do that. And then there's this other type of magic which Fitz also has, but is apparently very like looked down upon, and it's unclear where he got it, and that's called wit. And that basically is the same thing as the skill, but rather than with other people, it's with animals. And so he develops these like really close relationships with these various dogs that he has throughout like the couple of years and other animals, but he has to kind of keep that on the down low because it's not good. So the whole first book is like from the time he's 6 to I think he's 10 when that book ends.
4 years.
Yeah, but he's narrating it from clearly like when he's older, like he's reflecting back on his
like
time as a kid.
Okay, that's
So
cool.
it's not 100% linear, like you're kind of jumping around a little bit, but I really like it so far. I think Robin Hobb's writing feels very like cozy and like it's not trope based, you know? So it's like I think it was written in like 2014, I want to say. Like it hasn't been that long, but
Yeah.
it feels like a much older
Old school
fantasy series. Yeah. So I'm really enjoying that. And I want to read the next two, but I'm waiting for their audios to come in because I liked having
immersive.
And so waiting for that. But yeah, that was mine. And I'm excited. That's been on my TBR for so long. So I'm glad I finally like did it.
Yeah. No, I've only heard good things about that from friends and people that I know who've read it. So, but I haven't bought any of them. When I do, I will
It's
join
all
you.
over then.
Yeah, it's coming.
So let's jump into our main topic. So this is our quarter one wrapped. So we're going through January, February, and March reading. I think the idea isn't necessarily that we're going to go through like each book that we read because like Bree said earlier, you can go to our respective YouTube channels or pages, TikToks, Instagrams, whatever, if you want some of the nitty gritty on that. More to just give you an overall idea. So first off, how many books did you read this quarter?
I've read 59 books. I just realized I counted the one book I've read in April in here. I've read 59 books for the first quarter.
Very nice. I read 44. Is that like on pace with where you thought you would be?
Yeah, I feel like that's pretty. I think I average like 15 to 18 books a month. So I think 59 is that's a little above average for me.
Mm-hmm.
But that's mostly because March was crazy. But yeah, I think that's pretty.
I like try to shoot for 200 books a year. So that would be like 50 a quarter if I were to like read evenly the entire year, which I never do. But 44 is obviously a little below that, but not in like I'll never recover from this way.
Yeah. I think I set my goal is 300, like my stretch goal, like yours. But I put my Goodreads goal at like 150. And so I think my last year of law school, the first year I started reading again, I hit like 412 books.
I remember that. That was crazy.
Because I was reading like a crap ton on Kindle Unlimited that were like 200-page crazy romances that were so much fun and perfect for the time of my life. And so in my head, I'm like, I can hit 500 books a year. No, I cannot with the life that I live now and the books that I read now. And so
when you think of the numbers on that, that's like about 2 books a day for like most of the year. Like that's not sustainable if you have anything else in life going on, which you do now.
Now. So I'm like 300 books is like, because there are some weeks where I'll read 9 books if I literally have nothing else going on. I can do 1 book a day if I don't have anything else. Or there's some weeks that I read half of a book. You just never know. So I feel like 300 is a good middle ground. Yeah. And 59 books is like well on the way to doing that.
Yeah, definitely. I had a pretty slow January and February. I feel like I'm normally I shoot for like to get to 200 books in the year. I think I calculated I have to read about like 17 books a month on average. And normally I'm in between, I would say like, probably like 15 to 18, honestly. But January I read 13 and February I read 12. And then March I read 19. So I feel like if I can maintain this pace, that's great. But if not, not so much.
I think in March I got 23 books. But that, I mean, I was traveling so much and I spent more of my vacation on a plane than I did anywhere else. So that let me get a lot of books in. I read like 5 books within 2 days because I was on a plane so much.
Yeah, that's fair. I didn't do pretty much any reading in Mexico, and I thought I would. But then I was bedridden for like a week and a half.
It made up.
Got a lot done there. Okay, so as far as 5 stars, how many did you have?
14, which is really low for me.
Let me calculate that really quick. I'm not going to try to do math in front of everybody live. 14 out of 59. That's 24%. So that's really not bad percentage-wise for like how many you read.
I just feel like I typically I'm not a very hard grader. Like if I hate something, I'm going to hate it hard. But in general, I feel like I'm pretty easy to please-ish.
I think you do a good job at not reading books that you don't think you'll like.
Yeah. And I think like especially during the Lent season, I feel like that sounds bad. I've been harder on my Christian books than I am my non-Christian. But it's just like, I like really had high expectations for this, and I wanted some really, really good ones. And I've had a ton of 4-star reads,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't want to hand out 5 stars to all these books just because they were Christian books. I was like, I really wanted
Yeah.
it to be like an actual. So I feel like I've been very, very picky with those, and that's probably why it's a little lower. But like the 5 stars out of my Lent reads that have been 5 stars have been like
Phenomenal. Yeah.
phenomenal.
I think that was kind of a pivot I made like starting last year probably, because I was kind of the same way where like if I really liked a book I would just give it a 5-star. But then I think for me what I want 5 stars now to be is like books with staying power. So if I like look back on a book that I rated a 5-star, I want to feel the same way about it 5 years from now that I felt right after I read it. And there's a lot of books that are like a really fun time, but I don't think are gonna like withstand any sort of scrutiny or time or pressure applied to them. So I feel like my general ratings have dropped. But also, like, your reading changes over time. So there are things that, like, I would have given a 5-star to or had in the past where if I were to reread them, just by nature of, like, who I am as a person now, I don't think I would rate them the same.
Also, for like me, for like my 5-star ratings, I'm a huge rereader. So, like, one of my requirements for a 5-star read for myself, like, I have to be able to be like, I will reread this in the future. Like, it was so good. I don't want to just read it once. And so that really diminishes a lot because sometimes books are really, really great, but I'm like, I will
For that
never.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. I will.
Yeah. And I think I fall into the trap a little bit too. I don't know if this is true for you also, but speaking for myself, where like if I really like an author or I really like a series, there's almost that like I feel like I like should rate it 5 stars because I know that I've liked everything else in this, even if like the book itself was maybe closer to like a 4 or even lower than that. And so I've tried to be better about being like, just because you like the book doesn't mean it needs to be a 5-star.
Yes. When I feel that way too, especially with like indie authors in particular, because a lot of them follow me. So I'm like, I don't want to like
Hurt their
not
feelings.
like their book and post about it because I'm like, but I'm gonna be honest. But then I feel bad because they follow me, and I'm like,
hello,
I hated this or whatever it is, and so I'm like, but I've kind of gotten over that, or I've tried to get over that because I'm like, kind of like you chose to follow me and you knew I was a book reviewer, so
plus the likelihood that like I do not see everybody's posts that I follow, so it's very possible too that despite them following you, they may not even run across it. But like you said, that's kind of an assumption of the risk on their part.
Yeah, contracts.
I don't think Bree.
Wait, you didn't say how many you had?
Oh,
5-star
sorry.
rates.
I also had 14
I
5
distracted
stars,
you.
but because I read less, I think that ended up being a much higher percentage of my reads. That's 32% of my reads. Which, to be fair, funny that Bree was talking about rereading because that is pretty much where, not a majority, but a lot of my 5 stars came from. I reread, or I'm in the process now. I'm actually on the last book of my Game of Thrones, well, A Song of Ice and Fire read, and I'd read the first 3 books previously. So those were 5 stars. I reread The Dagger and the Flame, which was in my top 10 last year because I read the sequel to it, which is The Rebel and the Rose. And then there was a couple of others in there that I like, there was no chance they weren't going to be 5 stars, which is like the second era of Red Rising. And I knew I'd really like Silver Elite. I was not saving that necessarily, but there was a few that I was like, I expect this to be a 5-star. Which sometimes actually works against me, but a lot of the times I am pretty spot on with what I think of that. And yeah, so 14. And I think out of all of those, that was like 6 to 8 new to me 5 stars, which is pretty good for 3 months. Okay, now I put my other star ratings breakdown just to give you an idea of like over my 44 books what I'm rating. I obsessively use book tracking apps. I have like 8 different ones that I'm using right now. And I just literally every time I finish the book, when I post my mini review or whatever on my Instagram story, I'll just copy and paste it into each place. So it's not like I'm religiously using every single aspect of every single one of these apps. But anyway, so this was easy numbers for me to pull, not so much for Bree. Yeah, so I have 14 5 stars. I had 24 stars, which checks out to me. I feel like most of my books are 4 stars. 7 3 stars and only 3 2 stars. So I thought that was actually pretty good considering how many. That's 34 out of 44 of my books were 4 or 5 stars. Pretty good.
Yeah. I think I had 4 or 5 2 stars, to be honest. I had quite a few, or 2 and 2.5. but the majority of mine were 4 stars.
And you do half stars too, which is obviously
Yeah.
another
wrinkle.
difference. How about top genres? I don't know why I even put this in because I feel like everybody's gonna know that both of us were big fantasy and romance readers.
Yeah. I just have a third one because I did the Lynn challenge. So it was like fantasy, romance, and then Christian fiction. Like those are my most.
And almost all of your Christian books fell under romance or fantasy too.
Yeah.
Right?
I had like a few that were like they had romance in them, but I would say they were more like almost like women's fiction, Christian fiction.
Or
But
like
the majority
nonfiction too. You read a couple.
What?
Or like
I did read some,
nonfiction.
and I read a lot of Christian like historical fiction, but that historical fiction, like The Radiance of the Moon or Ambush of the Heart, like they were also like romances. So they're just romances set in history.
If they would be stored in the Christian fiction section, that's what they're classified under.
Yeah, I was like, because I feel like Christian fiction is like an umbrella, and then you have like Christian romance, Christian fan, and so I'm just like, let's do a big
That's
box.
how I feel about so many genres though, because there's like at the very minimum subgenres, but most of the time like overlap between pretty much everything. Like there's not really a historical fiction book that isn't also either a romance or an adventure story or a contemporary fiction or lit fic or something like that. So,
well, it's just like whenever I tell people like my favorite genre, like I don't say like romantasy or romantic fantasy, or I'm just like my favorite genre is fantasy and or romance, and anything under those two. Like I feel like sometimes we get a little too pretentious with all the genres, but that's just because I'm too lazy to learn all the different ones. I'm just like, we got fiction, we got fantasy, we got romance. That's
I feel
all
like very rarely too do I make decisions about what book to read off of what the genre is, so it doesn't matter to me. I also don't organize my books by genre, so I'm not that like dedicated to being like, here's where all of these books go. You know what I mean?
I do, but just like the big, like I do. These are my fantasy books, and these are my romance books.
The end.
And then these are like historical fiction, like regular fiction books. But that's about it.
The big three.
Yeah, the big three.
Okay. Want to talk superlatives?
Yeah. Best book, hands down, was Lightbringer. It's right up here in the special spot.
The Shrine.
I don't see anything topping that, to be honest. Unless by some miracle, unless by some miracle he releases Red God, I don't like. It will be a monumental task to overcome that book.
What about Akatar 6?
I don't know. I feel like I have such high expectations for Akatar 6. I'm really nervous it's not going to live up to it. So I'm like trying to calm down because.
Did you see Bloomsbury put up page numbers? I don't know how like legit they are, but supposedly the first book is like 350 pages, and then the next one's supposed to be like 900. That releases in January.
That's the other thing is I'm pretty sure Akatar 6 it's not a novella, obviously, because it's 350 pages. But I feel like because it's so short, and she said in like the podcast or whatever that it was really like one book that she like cut, basically. I feel like it's going to be a lot of background and a lot of like build up to get to like the next book, which is going to be all the good stuff. So I'm very cautious about it. Also,
I think it's going to be like a Tower of Dawn, Empire of Storm situation.
I do too.
I think it's going to be, honestly, who knows, right? This is just a gut feeling. I think because more is gone, that the short book is just going to be about more.
Yeah, and see, controversially, I'm not a big Moore girl. Like
I don't think that's that controversial. I feel like most people don't like her.
There's something about her. Like, I don't think that she's evil like some people do. Like, some people literally like think she's evil and gonna betray them. I don't think that. I just really don't care about her. And I also feel like we've been waiting so long to see what she's doing that now the like mystery of it's kind of died off for me. So when I start reading it again, I may get like re-excited about it. But right now, I just don't care.
That's fair.
And there were so many things at the end of these are going to have like little mini spoilers, but not big spoilers. Just if you haven't read Crescent City or recent Akatar books, maybe just pause and I'll be like, spoilers are done. But all the bonus chapters at the end of House of Flame and Shadow made me think that there's a possibility that this is going to be another Nesta book, or at least have her have a prominent role. Not necessarily.
I think she'll be one of the POVs because they're supposed to be. I mean, SJM didn't specify whether like every book individually is multi-POV, but she said the whole story, 4-part story or whatever is. So,
and so
I think
now
she has to be one of them.
Yes. And so now that we've got the like vibes of like Empire Dawn, Tower of Storms, I'm like, okay, so we're going to have this, are we going to have this whole thing with more? And then the next book's going to be split between Elaine and Nesta, because I would rather have like an Elaine book and that's just me though.
Yeah, I don't really know what I think. I feel like I really enjoyed House of Flame and Shadow more than like most people enjoyed it, but I also wasn't that invested in Crescent City as a series as much as I am with Agatar and Throne of Glass, so I feel like I can't think about it for too long or I get like almost like anxious.
Not to just go on a mini Akatar rant, but yeah, I don't know if it'll top Lightbringer for me. It would, especially if it's a more book, but we'll see.
Yeah,
there's always potential.
The meaty book is in January, which is next year. So, yeah, I have a feeling Lightbringer it'll definitely be in my top 10.
Yeah, I see you loving it.
But
I see you loving it more than Dark Age, for sure.
Our Q2 wrap up. Yeah, I'm in the middle of Dark Age currently. I think we're 70% through. We didn't read it last night because I'm buddy reading with my husband and he literally gets tired at like 7:30 at night. So
there's just 3 scenes that I'm waiting for you to read to text me about. Just like I have anxiety thinking about you reading them.
Well, that's exciting. Hopefully we're gonna do a lot tonight because I think I told my husband's abandoning me for the next couple of days for a bachelor party in Arizona. So or maybe I'll just finish it without him and not say anything.
That's what you get.
I know, I probably won't do that, but I'll threaten it. Okay, my best book of Q1 was Beneath by Ariel Sullivan, which I feel like I've spent a copious amount of airtime chatting with you guys about, so I won't bore you anymore with that. But technically it only got released March 24th. I read an arc of it, so I'd read it much sooner than that, but it's still having its moment, I feel like. So you guys should all go read Conform first, and then that. They're not exactly related. You could read Beneath by itself. Same world. I think authors release things in an order for a reason. All right, how about your worst book?
My worst book was Night Shift by Annie Crown. I went back and forth because I had...
What is that?
It's a basketball romance. I don't know if it's technically YA or not, but I went back and forth because I had several, like I said, 2 stars, and it was honestly really between... I have them all written out here.
The burn
It was
book?
really yeah, the burn book. It was really between The Compound and this.
Oh, I forgot how much you hated The Compound.
Yeah, but I liked it more than this. The FMC in this book was just honestly so insufferable. And it was basically like nerdy girl and jock basketball player. And then, but literally, she just like lost her crap on him every time something happened. And it was always like the smallest miscommunication that I wouldn't even qualify as an actual miscommunication. It was just her blowing up for some imagined slight. And then she was just like preaching about all of her positions in the world that like literally they would be talking about like random like cooking. And she'd be like, well, the patriarchy. And I was like, you're making bacon. What is happening here? Like, this is now 7 pages of nothing that has to do with making bacon and eggs. Like, what is going on? And so, yeah, I just found, and I read it because I was reading a bunch of basketball romances in preparation for March Madness, so I could do a basketball romance book rec. And then, like, basketball wasn't even, like, a part of the story, except for the fact that he supposedly played it, even though we never really saw that he played. So I was just like, okay, this whole thing. Yeah, I hated it. When I hate an FMC, the book barely ever survives. And this was definitely a case of that. Like, I wanted to punt this girl into the sun.
I was going to say that, yeah, that's like a deal breaker for you, regardless. When it sounds like there were other things on top of it that didn't really work. So sorry that wasn't a slam dunk for you.
I see what you did there.
It's the best I can do as far as basketball jokes. My worst book was Ruinous Creatures by Jessie Cole Jackson. I read this as an arc, and since it has now come out, I feel like there's been a lot of positive reviews that I've seen. So there's a lot of readers I don't trust anymore, because I think if you like this, like, we have some fundamental differences in our reading taste, in the sense that I have some. So, sorry to everybody.
In the sense that you suck.
One of my pet peeves about this book is that it's framed as a romantasy, so you expect there to be fantasy elements, and I think the world, this is sort of like what we were talking about with We Who Will Die. I feel like the world had so much potential. The magic system was really cool. This is really reliant on, as you may have surmised from the title, a lot of like magical creatures, but we pretty much just like abandoned all focus on that for the sake of like smut. And it's I would say, like, new adult book based on the age of the main characters. So obviously, like, you expect there to be like some spice because that's how it's advertised. Yeah. But the amount was crazy, and it all felt like insta lust to me, which when you have all of these other elements that you could lean into to tell what I think had the potential to be a really good story. It was really disappointing that it wasn't executed very well. And so I think everybody that has been speaking really well of it either had lower expectations or was enjoying it just for the spice, which is fine if that's how you are as a reader. But I think I have gotten very jaded by those books. So yeah, that was a disappointment. And it really wouldn't have been as much if the world hadn't had the potential that it did. Like, I feel like it's such a shame to, like, take a really cool idea and then just, like, squander it on a really mediocre plot.
Yeah.
And mediocre characters and a mediocre romance.
Basically, mediocrity.
Yeah, and I think it's supposed to be a series. I won't be continuing. And the writing wasn't super great either, which was an added insult to injury.
Man, you really didn't like this book. I feel like you don't strongly dislike a lot of books.
I don't.
As much as I do.
It also took me forever to read, and I feel like that's not a common problem for me. So, and even when it is a common problem, a lot of times it's like me intentionally not reading quickly so I can like absorb.
Savor it. Yeah.
Not like I'm getting so bored that I don't even want to pick this thing up. Like if I was someone who DNF'd, this would have been one.
This is it. Yeah, me same with Night Shift.
Cool. What was your best month of reading?
Oh, March.
Mine was March also. Both, I think, in quality and quantity.
Yeah, I think same.
And worst month, I put February, mostly because of the number of books. I felt like January and February were pretty similar for me in terms of like how much I was enjoying what I read.
Yeah, I put January for me, and it's not so, like you said, it's not so much the quality of books because I feel like I had about two-star books a month basically, so that was pretty even.
Yeah,
I just didn't read as much in January, so that gets the worst.
Yeah, and then that means you have a higher percentage of books you didn't like compared to other months. So.
Yes.
This one I just threw in because I think it's fun. But what was the best cover for a book that you read in Q1?
I put Pearl in the Sand by Tessa Afshar just because specifically the 10th anniversary edition, I just think it's absolutely stunning. It's like, it's a biblical fiction about the story of Rahab, and so you have like Rahab in like all of her robes, and it's all these blue colors and her pearl earring, and I just think it's beautiful.
Mine is The Maui Effect by Sarah Ackerman, which I think was like, it was an okay book. It wasn't one of my favorite books of the quarter for sure, but the cover is so pretty. It's a big, like, it's not like a surfing romance, but both of the characters surf and they live in, one of them's like a professional surfer. So he like jumps all over the place doing competitions and stuff. And they meet in Maui because that's where she lives.
It's not the Maui I experienced.
So it's them like on the beach with surfboards at like sunset. So there's a lot of like pinks, orange, blues, kind of my favorite color scheme. So I really like that one. I actually bought the book like mostly for the cover. So,
just to have. Yep.
Yeah. I found it. That might have been, was that when you were here? Maybe.
I think it might have been.
It was at like a random indie bookstore.
I think that was that the book you bought when you were like, I feel like I need to buy a book since we came in the rain.
Maybe.
After we ate breakfast?
Probably, because it was from
I think it was.
Face in a Book.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I had something and I put it back because I was like, I'm going to wait. And you were like, I feel like we should buy something. And so you bought that.
Yeah, support small business. That bookstore closed.
Oh.
I know. Sad.
Pom.
They didn't even try to sell it or anything. The lady just retired and said she didn't think rents were reasonable anymore, allegedly. Obviously, have not talked to her directly about this. So.
My very good friend, Face in a Book.
Okay, this is a fun one. Most disappointing. And explain, like, how you were thinking about this category. Like, what made a book disappointing versus not. Because I'll go first, so you know what I'm talking about. For me, this was a book that, like, and I picked two, but these were books that I expected to be good that ended up not working for me. And in my case, both of these were authors that I've read before and had good experiences with. So they weren't like my worst books because I still think they were like redeemable. But these were like, I anticipated them to be like 5 or 6 star reads for me, and they were both 3-star. I could just go since I already started running my mouth about this. My first one was Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. I credit The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue with being the book that got me back into reading as an adult. So I feel like I have a very soft spot for V.E. Schwab based on nothing else besides that. I've also read other books by her and liked them. But this one, I think my main problem was that I didn't find any of the FMCs likable. And so that made it really hard to like root for them or want good things to happen to them. And they were all very toxic. Like I feel like the kind of tagline everyone uses for this book is toxic lesbian vampires, which I think is very reductive because the majority of the book is not focused on those things. You don't even know that two of them are vampires until like almost halfway through the book. So like there's a lot of other things going on, and they're all in like different time periods, and they're interacting with each other at like different times. And I don't know what I was expecting out of this book, but because Addie LaRue hit so hard for me, I just think I like assumed that this one would also, and I feel like it didn't. And part of that is just like the danger of going in with high expectations is that you're more likely to be disappointed.
Yeah.
So that was one of them. The other one was The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow, which I've read Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. I gave that 4 stars. It wasn't like an all-time favorite or anything, but I think she does an excellent job with writing like an atmospheric book with something different than what everybody else is doing. And the other author that I think does this really well is Olivia Blake. And so to me, they're kind of like similar writers in
I
my
would agree
head.
with that.
But anyway, so The Everlasting is about this like guy who works at a university and is basically doing like research on this one like mythical lady knight, and you have kind of like a Groundhog Day time loop situation, which I won't like go into a ton, but it reminded me of Our Infinite Fates a lot in just like the plot. And I accidentally, and this is my fault, visualized the main characters as Frodo and Brienne of Tarth, and that did not serve me very well. Yeah, I found him kind of like whiny and annoying, and she had a lot of like identity struggles that I felt like were not very relatable, like in the sense that I'm like, why did you even fall for this guy?
What's wrong with you?
Exactly. Like, if you like him, I don't trust your judgment. Yeah. So I think I just wanted a lot more out of it. That being said, I think Alex E. Harrow is an excellent writer, and so is V. Schwab. And so I feel like the writing on both of these is what saved it from being lower than a 3-star, but they were bummers because I was really thinking both of these would be 5 stars for me.
Yeah, I had very similar experience. My two, the first one is Catch Her If You Can by Tessa Bailey, which is the final book in the Big Shot series, which has been a huge roller coaster for me. First book was 5 stars, absolutely loved it. Next book was 2 stars, hated it. Next book was 3 stars, it was okay. Next book was 5 stars, amazing. And I went into this one with really high expectations because you had met the characters in the previous book that was 5 stars that I loved. And for me, Tessa Bailey is a little bit of like a comfort author because her books are super easy to read and they're usually silly and ridiculous and a fun time. And I feel like she is at her best when she's being silly and ridiculous in a goofy time. And the books where she tries to like handle like heavy topics, I just don't think she writes it well. I don't think she handles the topics well. It takes me out. And yeah, so there was like past abuse and neglect and abandonment. And I love those things. I
love abuse. I love it.
like a book that handles those and deals with it and you feel the emotion. And when she writes it, I just don't get it at all. And so I didn't care about these characters. The emotional like development and depth wasn't there for me. And so yeah, it was a 2 stars. I was really disappointed. And then the next one was The Compound because I was told it was like Survivor meets Love Island meets Lord of the Flies. And it was that. However, the characters sucked so bad and I just couldn't I feel like if I had been able to be in the heads of more characters, it would have made it a little bit better for me. But the FMC, I think she says a line about how she's like the most beautiful girl there, but the least interesting. And that was the most true line I've ever read in my life. Because this girl was like watching paint dry, listening to her inner monologue. Like, I just couldn't do it. So the like tag description of like Survivor meets Love Island, that sounded so good to me. And yeah, the execution just wasn't there for me at all. So both of those were 2 stars.
Frustrating. Especially with, I think, Catch Her If You Can, because you have been like a big Tessa Bailey supporter. And those are hard topics for any author to cover well, but especially if that's not really your area, we'll say.
Yeah. When I'm like, if you're going to write a rom-com, write a rom-com. But it's hard to write a rom-com that also has a bunch of heavy topics in less than 300 pages or less than 400 pages. Like Abby Jimenez, like I would not categorize her books as rom-coms. They're funny moments.
Yeah.
But that's not the main. And even Emily Henry, like her books aren't really rom-coms.
No.
So I think that's just like, not to be like, stay in your lane, but also stay in your lane.
But like, don't be surprised if going out of your lane doesn't end up well for you.
Yes. And like, I have a ton of friends who liked those books, but also I feel like Tessa Bailey's books are so smutty. Because I skipped the spice, so I'm already skipping so much. And then you have the heavy topics that aren't handled well. And so then the funny moments are just outweighed by all this other stuff that doesn't hit for me. So I was like, that's just a personal thing. Lots of people loved it, but yeah, could not be me.
So this next section, I just kind of like broadly call it lists. I don't think we need to go through like every single thing necessarily, but we can kind of talk as like a general rule. So this first category is like authors that we read, which is kind of broadly new to us versus like repeat authors. I don't know that it's probably a good use of time for us to like go through and say all of them.
No, we could just say how many new we did, and then maybe like who our favorite new to us
yeah,
author
I like
was.
that. I had more new to me authors than I had repeat authors, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Especially because I feel like I've been reading a lot of series recently. I had 23 new to me authors, and out of those, I think my favorites were probably Lane Fargo with The Favorites.
Love that book.
Robin Hobb, I really liked Assassin's Apprentice, and I would say Danny Francis, who wrote Silver Elite, which we know for a fact that that's a pen name, but we don't know who the actual author is, so it's possible that I've read this person before and just have no idea. But I think those were my three favorite new to me's. How about you?
Yes. I read, I think about 16. I might be missing one or two on there, but I'm not missing anyone important, so that doesn't matter. And I think my favorites, this is really, really hard, especially for like all the Christian fiction ones, because I read so many good ones. But I think my top would definitely be Tessa Afshar, who writes a lot of biblical fiction. And I think that she does such a good job of, one, you can tell she's really researched biblical times and history, and she does a great job of staying true to biblical work, but also like creating things that are fictionalized that could have happened versus just like outlandish things that you're like, this would never happen.
Like,
And
okay.
so, yeah. So I think that she and her writing style and development of characters is just really, really beautiful. Love her.
You read
I
a
think,
few of her books too. Like, that wasn't either just a one.
yeah.
One
I think I read
under.
4 or 5 of her books this month.
Just a lot.
Yeah, I really, really enjoy her stuff. And I have more to read. So excited about that. I think the next one, ooh, this is hard. Probably Jessica Ashley, who did the Christian romantic suspense, because I just really, really enjoyed that. And romantic suspense is one of my favorite genres. So I'm excited to read more of hers. I think she has a good balance of like suspense and like romance. I think she's really good at that.
That's the author last week you said reminded you of Catherine Cowles, right?
Yes. Yeah, like the Christian version. And then I think I have like 4 that would be in the next spot, but I'm just gonna say T.I. Lowe. But there's like 3 other that are probably tied with her. But T.I. Lowe, I read. Yeah, Lou's Cafe. So that's the only book by her that I've actually read and finished. I read like a short novella that was like literally 150 pages. So, but I don't really count that. I mean, yeah, but it was solid, but I would have rather that been a full book. But Lulu's Cafe was just so freaking good. And she writes a lot about like southern towns. I'm from the South, and her characters just remind me of like that nostalgic feeling of home and like my grandma and things like that. And so I love that. And they're like all romances, but also stories of like redemption and grace and finding yourself and restarting your life and building it back up. So I think that her character development is just really, really good. And I am a character driven reader. So I love that.
So now we have this section on like series. So I can tell you right now, I didn't finish any series this whole quarter, which is kind of sad. But I literally went through, I'm like, have I read the last book in any of these? Nope. The one that I thought I maybe had was Enchantra by Kaylee Smith. But apparently there's going to be another book. And I thought it was just a duology. So I have not finished any series.
I finished, well, for sure 3, and then I put Red Rising on there because I have finished all the books that are out, and we don't know when we're getting Red God. So that's technically finished for me until...
Yeah, there's nothing more for you to do there.
Yes. So, and then I finished The Wolves of Football Legacy by Carla Sorensen. Love Carla Sorensen. Her books are just super easy, bingeable romances, and that book was super fun, that whole series. Then I finished The Big Shots, obviously, which was a roller coaster of high highs and low lows. And then I finished the King of the Court series by Piper Lawson, which was a basketball romance series. And each book was like 200 pages, and they all just like continued. So really, it was almost like one big book chopped up. But it was super fun, and I really enjoyed it.
Oh, those are the ones you were binging like right before Ash Wednesday, right? Yeah.
Literally. I read like 3 of them in one day. And I think that's all that I finished.
I have series we started. For me, I defined any of those as like ones where we read what we think is supposed to be like the first book in the series.
I also finished the Sarah Adams series. Is it the When in Rome series? Is that what it's called?
I don't know if that's what it's called, but that's what I call it.
Yeah. Whatever that series called, I finished that too.
Nice. Sorry. For series we started, a lot of these for me are the same as series we're in the middle of, but I started
Yeah.
A Song of Ice and Fire. Like I said, I'm one book away from finishing, similar to your Red Rising experience, what's out. The likelihood that we actually get Winds of Winter, I feel like, is diminishing by the friggin' day, so we'll see if I ever read more in A Song of Ice and Fire. I started M.M. Lion. I read the first book. Honestly, I think I didn't enjoy it as much as a lot of people did, and I only listened to it on audio. So I kind of want to like take another stab at it when I can read it as well, just because I think I might like that better with like the journal format.
Yeah, I started that too, and everyone was like, these are the best books ever. And I liked it, but I didn't think it was like groundbreaking.
Yeah. And I feel like I'll have better results when I can just like go into the next one. And the next book, I think I was waiting from the library for like another 3 weeks. And by the time I got it, I was like, I don't know that I care anymore. So I'll try that again at some point because it does sound like something that I will enjoy.
Yes.
It just is not a at the moment thing. I read Firebird by Juliet Cross. That's definitely got a sequel coming up.
I think it comes out this month.
Cool. I'm excited for that, actually. I think I said this in our We Who Will Die episode, but I think Firebird does the like Roman setting a lot better than We Who Will Die did. I restarted Outlander. I've already read the first book, but I'm supposed to read the second book actually this month when we're filming. So April. We Who Will Die, I'm pretty sure, is a series. I'm not 100% sold that I'll be continuing. The next book also isn't out yet, but that one, same thing with Thorn Season, same thing. Well, Silver Elite, definitely. We have like a title and everything.
That's next month.
Is that okay? I was like, it's May or
It's
June.
May. Can't wait.
And then I already mentioned this earlier, but Realm of the Elderlings is another one I started.
Yeah, I started / am in the middle of quite a few. Obviously, Emma in Line, like I just said. And then I started the Starlight Grove series, which is Catherine Cowell's new series. I read the first book, absolutely loved it.
Of those.
They're gorgeous. I feel like her covers are always gorgeous, though.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're like the real people covers or the like abstract scenery ones, I just think they're really pretty, and I like the color scheme she picks. So, love that. Cannot wait for the next book, counting down the days. Then I started Cities of Refuge, which is a biblical fiction all about the cities of refuge from Joshua and Leviticus, where like if you are convicted of manslaughter, like you can go run away to these cities and like not be tried, basically. And so I read the first 2 books in that series and they are so good. I cannot wait to continue that. I also started the, oh my gosh, what is it called? I didn't write it down. Samantha Young series.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know the name of it.
The Scottish Isles. It's like, which I think technically I started that series in October, but I have the arc for the next book. So you'll hear more about that later at the end. So I have that. I started Wolf Creek Ranch, which is a Christian cowboy romance. I'm almost finished with that book. I have like 50 pages left. It's really fun. The Rocky Mountain Marshals, which is like a Christian historical fiction Western frontier like outlaws book, which was really fun. Totally screw this name up. So the Hebridean Shield, which is the Radiance of the Moon book that I was talking about. That's the name of that series. I don't know if it's Herb.
Is it Hebridean, as in like the Hebrides Islands? Because those are off the
Probably.
coast of Scotland. Well, there's an R in there, so I didn't want to.
Well, I just typed that with my bad eyes, so I could have just spelled it wrong. Whatever that is that Hannah said, that's probably the correct word.
Hebridean.
Because it is about the islands off of Scotland. Yeah, so can't wait to read the next book of that. Then I'm in the middle of the Coastal Hope series, which is the Christian romantic suspense I've talked about a couple times. The Woman of the Way series, which is biblical fictions about really strong women of the Bible. The Fog Harbor series, which is a Christian romance series about all these people who work at this publishing house.
I love the names of so many of these.
Yeah, they're really fun. I think it's the Evermore, whatever Rose and Chains is. I'm pretty sure it's Evermore.
I have no idea.
That sounds right. Well, whatever Rose and Chains is, that series, I read Rose and Chains, loved it. Wild at Heart series by Lex Martin. I'm 3 books in, and the next book comes out in a couple months. Yeah, those are all the series that I'm in the middle of. A lot, actually, for me.
Yeah. I also threw in series that I'm in the middle of, which are like not ones that I started this quarter, but I made progress on this quarter. So the only ones, there's a lot of overlap between ones I started and this. But The Ashen is one of them that starts with The Road of Bones, then Kingdom of Claw, then Dawn of the North. And we just got the new name of the 4th book announced, but I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. So that's The Ashen in the middle of that. Obviously, Song of Ice and Fire already talked about. The Dagger and the Flame I put in there. I think it's something Voltaire or something Fantone.
I think Fantone sounds right.
Yeah.
Or
Anyway,
at least
there's
that sounds
supposed to
like
be one
something.
more book because that's going to be a trilogy. It's not out yet. I put the Empyrean on here because I read Onyx Storm in January. Ask me how much I liked it, but I am still technically, I guess,
I
in
was
the
about to
middle
say,
of the Empyrean.
I guess I'm technically in the middle of that too, but I don't know if I'm going to continue.
Yeah. Red Rising, and then I also put Love Light Farms in there because I read In the Weeds in March.
Which you did not like as much as I did.
I gave it 4 stars. I didn't dislike it. I really liked Love Light Farms though, which
Yeah, I
was
think we're switched.
yeah.
Because I was like, In the Weeds was my favorite in that whole series. I loved Beckett.
I also enjoy Beckett. I think Love Light Farms was one of those that I just read at exactly the right
Perfect time.
time when I hadn't been reading a ton of romance, and so just like hit. But I still liked In the Weeds. Like it wasn't a bad book. I didn't like the FMC as much.
Too strong.
There's not like there's anything like wrong with her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was that. All right. Your favorite section, probably. This is how we're doing on the goals that we talked about in, I think that was like our second episode of the whole podcast was our goals for 2026. So we'll tell you how we're doing on those. Want to start us off?
To quote Dorinda from the Royal Housewives of New York, not well. 300 books a year. I'm making steady progress on this. Like I said, I'm at 59 books, so that's pretty good. The 12 friend recs. I never even asked 12 friends for 12 recs.
I mean, you could start that anytime you wanted.
That's definitely not have any progress right now. 1 fairy loot book per month. I've read 1.
Okay, so that's only 2 behind.
Yes, really that goal kind of got screwed over because of my Lent challenge, so.
Yeah, Fairy Loot's not out here sending Christian books.
Yeah,
so
that can be done. Organize my shelves and unhaul 50-50. I have not organized anything, and right now I'm like, might as well not organize until I move into my house. But I have unhauled some stuff, which is huge for me because I'm not a big unhauler.
Yeah.
I made 2 trips to Half Price Books in the last 2 months, so.
And I feel like the organizing will come when you move naturally.
Yeah.
So.
Same. And be better about my TBR. That's a big ol' no. Not at all. Finished Kristin Hannah's backlist. Nope. Haven't even read another Kristin Hannah book. So, yeah.
Kind of a mixed bag there, but this is just quarter 1, so there's still so much time to like.
Also, like I'm not as stringent about my book goals as I am about like life goals. I feel like this is the one area of my life where I'm not type A, and it's a good place to not be that because every other area of my life I am psychotic. Not reaching these goals is not going to keep me up at night like other things would.
Very fair. My overall like annual goal that I like definitely softball because I know I can hit it is 52 books for the year. I've read 44, so I'm almost done with that phase. 200 is my stretch goal. We talked about it. I'm like 6 behind that to be like on track, but I feel fine about that. I had a 26 and 26 challenge. I've read 11 of those books so far, so I feel like I'm doing pretty good. That's 2 away from half. So if I keep up this pace, I'll read, like, say I read 11 in quarter 2, I'd only have 3 books left. Nope.
Yeah.
4 books left for the whole rest of the year. So I'm doing well. My goal was to get my TBR to 700 or less. I think I started at like 720 something, and now I'm at 760. So
I was about to be like, wow, you're not that far ahead, but I forgot you started lower than what you're at now.
Yeah. I don't remember when we filmed if I had counted my book vent books yet.
I think you had, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I don't know. But my TBR did go down by like 11 in March. So I feel like I'm making progress because it was 771 in February. It could be worse is what I'm saying.
It could be worse.
Read 15 Book of the Month books. I've read 7, so that's going pretty well. Read 15 Fairy Loot books. I've read 5. 5 Owl Crate books. I've read 2. And then 5 Moonlight and Illyrial books each, and I haven't read anything from either of those. And then my goal is to get my NetGalley feedback ratio to 30% with my stretch goal at 40%, and I'm currently at 37%. So
look at you.
I also have 3 arcs that are outstanding right now, and then I don't think I'm, like, I know I'm not requesting more or anything after I finish those. Yeah. So if that doesn't raise me to 40%, then I just won't get there, and that's fine.
I think you should.
What? You think it will?
Yeah, I think that should raise you. You only need 3%.
Yeah, we'll see. And I meant to count this before we hopped on this episode. Was also to read my remaining Aardvark books because I canceled my Aardvark subscription probably like 3 years ago and still had a couple of books hanging out that I just hadn't gotten to. At some point, I had 11 Aardvark books, but I don't know when I got that number, but I have read 3 over Q1. So I'm making progress.
There you go.
Okay. And then I did a section for top 10 of the year contenders. So not obviously that we're like locked into these, but if there's any that are on your radar right now that you think have a very high probability of making the cut for top 10.
Yeah, so last year I did a huge like year-end wrap-up video where I ranked every single book that I read. However, I didn't start ranking them until like November, and so that was really hellish going back through the 200 books that I read and trying to figure out how to rank them. So this year I was proactive and have started ranking them as I finished them.
Nice.
Which is very helpful. So I already had kind of like my top 10-ish, top 40, whatever. And so obviously I said Lightbringer is my number one. It's going to stay my number one. It's going to stay my number one, most likely. I love that book. It'll be really hard to defeat it.
You read that in January, right?
Yeah, it was one of the first. Well, I think Lightbringer was technically in February.
Still super early for finding your best book. And we did, I think, the first Red Risings and well, maybe yours are in November because I finished.
Yeah, I read
pretty late in the year, so that's interesting.
No, I was like Red Rising was in like November, I think, and then Golden Sun was also November, and Morningstar was in December. So, and then Iron Gold and Dark Age were in January, which are both within my top 10 somewhere. I mean, those are 5-star reads; they're just so good. And then Lightbringer's February, definitely my favorite read of the year. Then I have Lulu's Cafe, which I've talked about a couple times. So good. Pearl in the Sand. I have Pearl in the Sand right now at 3, but I think it might even overtake Lulu's Cafe at 2. Like Pearl in the Sand was so good. I have Reckless Love by Kate Goodwin, which I really, really enjoyed. And it has like a romance, accidental pregnancy kind of like plot, but it's more about like these two women and how they approach life and forgiveness, redemption, trying to find their footing, and like juxtaposing this like one woman who has grown up a Christian and this one woman who has no faith, and how their choices about different things affect each other and their town. And so it was more like women's fiction, I would say. It was really good. It was a retelling or like reimagining of the Bible story of Sarah and Hagar, and I've never been like, I want to read a story about Sarah and Hagar. So I was like, I never would have picked it up. So good. I cried so hard. And then Across the Vanishing Sky by Catherine Cowles. Definitely up there.
It's a good list. I'm excited to see how that kind of morphs over the next couple of months. I picked 4, and these were kind of like vibes only. I have not made a large ranking list. Might be the first time ever that I don't have a list for something that Brie does. I put The Favorites by Lane Fargo. I binged this book. I feel like it was just addicting. It was a good time. I put Beneath by Ariel Sullivan. I would be shocked if this is not in my top 10. I have great reading ahead of me this year if this is not in the top 10. I might anyway, but you know what I mean? I put Silver Elite by Danny Francis in there. Same thing. I don't think this is like a perfect book. I don't think it's like the best book that's ever been written, but I just had a great time reading it.
So much fun.
I was bored at no point, which is hard to do, but especially with romantasy and like dystopian books, because I feel like I've read so many of them that I'm like not really surprised by anything anymore. So if you can like take that and still make it a fun reading experience, that's like impressive. And then I put Twice in a Lifetime by Melissa Barron, which I haven't really talked about at all on here. I didn't read this that long ago. It was probably like it was towards the end of March. This was one of my Aardvark books, actually. And it's sort of, I would compare it to Rebecca Searle in the sense that it's like romance with like a hint of magical realism. Kind of a Rebecca Searle meets like Ashley Poston would be my two contemporaries. And it's about this girl who's just, you know, derping around through life or whatever. And she starts getting these mysterious texts from somebody who says he's her husband, but she hasn't met him yet. And he like proves that it's him. Like he sends pictures of like their wedding and stuff, which it's so funny to think about now because I'm like, their AI pics, sis. Like, but obviously we didn't have that when this book came out. Anyway, and so essentially it comes out that she is dead in his like timeline, and she has like not a choice necessarily to make, but like he's kind of trying to help past her make decisions that don't land her in the same place that she ends up in his timeline. And it turns out that they met. I won't go into a ton more detail other than this. I think this is on the back of the book. But they meet in his timeline because he's her physical therapist after this like really bad car accident she gets into. And so she's basically trying to figure out when the car accident happened, how to avoid it, blah, blah, blah. She does avoid it. And then all communication that she's had with him disappears because now it's changed whether they'll meet at all.
Yeah.
And so it's it's very interesting. I don't normally do well with like magical realism that's not like super explained, but I felt like this was really integral to the plot, and it wasn't just like a time loop. It was more like time jumps and like alternate universes almost. So yeah, but that's another one I think that just kind of hit me at the right time, and I really enjoyed it. So recommend if you're looking for a romance that's not just kind of the same that we're getting from a lot of different authors right now, because it had a very unique twist, I thought.
So that's basically our wrap up for our Q1, or at least the big highs and big lows.
Yeah, I feel like on the whole we had a pretty great start to 2026 as far as reading goes. We've made progress on some goals. We've got a lot of new authors under our belts, and at least a couple of books each for us that we think will be in the top 10, which that's like always my top metric for like whether it was a good month, quarter, whatever. If there's a book where I'm like, I know that's going to be up there, that feels good. So I think because we're already running kind of long, we will end it there. But thank you guys so much for coming along. We'd love to hear from you about how your Q1s went and what you're excited for in your Q2 reading.
And don't forget that our book club this month is The Nightingale. So we'll be reading that, and we can't wait to discuss it with you guys.
It's a much longer book than we've read for the last few, so you might want to get started on it. Cool. Well, bye, guys. That's it for today's episode of Chapter Chats. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Chapter Chats Pod.
And you can find me, Bree, at Brazen and Bookish on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
And you can find me, Hannah, at Bookshelvish on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Substack.
Or you can email us at chapterchatspod@gmail.com with book recommendations, episode ideas, or just to say hi.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review, follow, and subscribe on your favorite platform.
Catch you next chapter.